1943. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is opposite to state here that the preponderance of opinion of all stakeholders who made both written and oral presentation at the public hearing commended the intendment of the bill and expressed their total support for its passage into law by the National Assembly. The stakeholders are also unanimous that the effort of the Senate in bringing up this bill is not only timely but also desirable. Now to the recommendations of the committee. The Committee on Police Affairs, which was referred the bill for an act of repeal of Police Act, laws of the Federation of Nigeria, having considered the same, hereby recommends as follows. 1, that it should be made binding on the Inspector General of Police to adhere to policing plans. The national policing plan should be made with inputs from police force headquarters and all various police formations nationwide before the end of each financial year, setting out priorities, objectives, cost implications, expected outcomes of policing for the next succeeding financial year in order to change budgeting from top-down approach to bottom-up approach. Secondly, that the name Nigeria Police proposed in the draft bill should be changed to Nigeria Police Force as presently in use in view of the failed constitution alteration attempt to amend the name. Thirdly, that the police abide and enforce certain constitutional provisions, particularly fundamental rights of persons in police custody under Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, and other international instruments of human rights to which Nigeria is a signatory, including provisions that reiterate the importance of fundamental human rights and advocating for their observance. And fourthly, that on the appointment and removal of Inspector General of Police, the provisions of the Constitution in line with Section 215 of the 1999 Constitution as amended should be studied, as any proposal contrary to this provision may require constitutional alteration for it to be viable. That the establishment of community police forum is strongly recommended. That the tenure of office of Inspector General of Police should be single year or 4 term, which will make for a secured tenure. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this is a very important bill coming to us at this time, and I urge our colleagues to look at it passionately. On behalf of the committee, I thank Mr. President and the colleagues for giving us this opportunity to carry out this assignment. I thank you, Mr. President.
Comments? Yes, Senator Shafa.
Thank you, Mr. President. I must commend the crop of officers that we have now. Their condition is so bad, we all know that. But some of them, out of the fact that they cannot take care of themselves, they have to go into areas of getting what they want or even venting their anger on innocent citizens. Of recent in Lagos, about 4 killings between January to April, we have witnessed through these extrajudicial killings. And when you don't now look at all these things, which form the foundation of the problems that they have in the streets, we run into this. I haven't said this, Mr. President. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to hear my view and to say that we should look at the area of police trust fund as an intervention window. Thank you very much.
UK government is of the opinion that this bill is one of the most important bill of the 8th Assembly. So I want to put that on record, sir. to show that we have put a lot of industry into what we have done, and I know that it is in the overall interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much, sir.
I think it's a very important bill to address how we reform the police. As I said, since it's been promulgated since 1943, it has not done a clear review. We still know what the ideal, where we should go ideally, but until we get there, at least let us address how to reform the police. If there are no other comments, Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate goes to committee of the whole to consider the report.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion.
Those in favor of that clause 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of that clauses 2, 3, and 4 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, Senator, yeah.
From our experience, sir, we want to run away from the situation where the Inspector General of Police has to retire after reaching the normal civil service retirement period after reaching 60 years. That one is a good one, because what it does is that you may not be Inspector General of Police until after you probably have just about 1 or 2 years to go. You know, which means you just serve for 1 or 2 years, and before you even sit on the seat to do anything, you know, your retirement time has come. I think we should run away from that. But when we come to the issue of tenure of office, I think the tenure should be extended to a period of, say, about 5 years. And once you are made the Inspector General of Police and appointed and confirmed by the Senate, that 5 years should be exclusive of your retirement date of 60 years, so that you will be elevated above the civil service. You can have one term of 5 years stretch, so that you can plan and do whatever.
This issue, if it is not properly put the way it should be, has the potential to create problems. Because the tendency is to say that, okay, the man has retired as statutorily required, and people will begin to undermine him. But if we make it very clear that even if he has 2 years or 1 year or 6 months, the moment he is appointed, that appointment is sacrosanct as far as the tenure is concerned.
Serve for a single tenure of 5 years, notwithstanding date of retirement, stands part of the bill. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. That is giving great concern to our people is cases of where people have lost their life due to, well, either excessive use of force or indiscriminate use. How are the citizens protected, and how does this reform guide to ensure that officers, maintain the highest level of standards to go extra effort to protect people's lives while they are discharging their duties? I think that's a great concern that I'm sure a lot of Nigerians want to know today, that what are we doing in that. So in the situations that we see, for example, some of the recent incidents we see where, somebody has died due to supposed excessive use of force, what does this bill do to address those kind of situations? Thank you.
The committee's recommendation, a person who knowingly abhors or entertains, is talking about intoxication, liquor, and all that. And that act can lead to death. But if you see the last paragraph, it's talking about a fine of 20,000 for an act that can lead to death. Because a man who takes liquor or psychotropic substances can also discharge ammunitions. And that act can lead to death. And we are now prescribing a punishment of 20,000 or imprisonment of 3 terms. It is not commensurate to the life of yeah.
I think what we're supposed to do, like 2 years imprisonment.
I think we need to increase both. both the imprisonment and the fine. For somebody to do something that will lead to death, and you are asking him to go for 3 months or just 20,000 naira, he will pay in the court. He will pay the 20,000 and walk away. What that provision seeks to do is to discourage such acts by police officers, knowing fully well. Listen. Wait now. If you listen, is to discourage those acts by the conduct of police officers because we know it will lead to death. But there is equally a provision that where you violate those acts now and now go to commit that offense, you will equally be appropriately punished. So this is the difference. Mr. There is no how in a society. There is no how in listening. There is no how in police. There is what we call rules for keeping beat duties. And in those rules, these things are spelled out. And because they are spelled out, it means police must be encouraged to observe those rules. And that's why that provision is inserted. It is different from engaging in the act that consequentially lead to that.
How does 20,000 naira and 3 months be a form of discouragement?
Use of the amount 20,000 takes into account the salary and the average salary of a police officer. But wait.
This committee holds no objection if this amount is increased to a reasonable amount of money. Because actually, this is not talking about a police officer. It's talking about public. Any person who does this to a police officer. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, penalties are meant to serve a deterrence. And, well, we are rushing, but I think the penalties that have been introduced into this bill, starting from obstructing the police officer to perform his duty, to this one that has been raised by Senator Dino, to when someone uses a uniform and while he's not a police officer, I think we need to look at all these penalties. They are so small and they will not serve a deterrence.
Assault on police officer. Are we satisfied with that? Okay, 100. And make recommendations so we can make progress.
1 million. 1 million and 2 years.
1 million.
No, 1 million and 2 years. 1 million and 2 years. Because look at the issue, sir. A person who assaults, obstructs police officer in the execution of his duty, or aids and incites any other person to assault, obstruct and resist police officer, or any other person aiding or assisting the police officer in the execution of commit an offense, and he's only charged with 100,000. It's too small, sir. Move. I remove 2 million and 2 years.
1 million.
Progress, yes, Senator Jibril.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, I second the motion as ably moved by. Okay, well, I think Mr. Chairman, 2 million is too much. 1 million, sir. 1 million or 2 years and 2 years. 1 million.
Those in favor that clause 100 as amended, that is 1 million naira fine for a term of 2 years or both. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
I will suggest, sir, that we put a minimum and then leave it to the discretion of the court to decide how much he can award. If the gravity of the offense demands that he gives 1 million, he can give it, or even more than that. But if we put a minimum, he cannot go beyond that minimum. So my suggestion is that we put 200,000 minimum, nothing to a fine of not less than 200,000. So he could give 1 billion, he could give 1 million, he could give 500,000, depending on the gravity of the offense.
We also have to understand that there are different categories of sanctions that will result. I think let us settle on the Lidani's suggestion and come down a little bit. 200 is okay, because we don't know what will be the consequence of this decision we are taking in the future.
Let me put the question. The amendment is that we should have it to read, if commission offense liable on conviction to a minimum fine of 200,000 or imprisonment for a term of 6 months or both. Those in favor of this amendment that stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Nays have it. Yeah, Senator Ali Mekena.
I want to clear one thing, sir. The purpose of fine is for it to serve as a deterrent. If fine is too excessive, then it becomes an offense because it's the ability to pay. If you say fine is 1 million and the person cannot pay, which means that our prison will feed up. So that's why the fine it serves as a deterrent. It's not the amount that matters in law. So it's just to serve as a deterrent. So when a fine is too excessive, then the ability to pay becomes zero. So that's why because you cannot pay, then you go to prison. Then in other words, if they not ask somebody to pay 1 million, you cannot pay, then you go to prison. Everybody will go to prison. Where is the prison?
Your amendment. Okay, Senator Gaya.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I have no objection in the fine of 1 million, as suggested my colleagues, but let's put it in such a way that if some people cannot afford, so let's say the fine should be not exceeding. Let's put the fine as not exceeding 1 million.
I have no objection because it's democracy. But I have a responsibility to tell you that what normally happens is that you say not less than and allow the magistrate to determine. Okay. 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 Chairman, there is nothing that cannot be reviewed. And when you have superior arguments, you can review your position. And I think that the best way we should go should be not less than. So that you leave, at least you give the judge a leverage, a discretion, depending on the gravity.
Distinguished colleagues, it will now read that a person who assaults, obstructs, or resists a police officer in the execution of his duty, or incites any other person to assault, obstruct, or resist a police officer, or any other person aiding or assisting the police officer in the execution of his duty commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not less than 500,000 or imprisonment for a term of 2 years or both. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 103. Yes, Senator Jibril.
It's very serious, sir. People wearing uniform to go and kidnap people, kidnap innocent, law-abiding citizens. So it should be 5 years. It should be 5 years or both. 5 million or 5 years or both. 5 million.
Amendment is that under 103, it commits an offense and liable on conviction to a fine of 5 million or imprisonment for a term of 5 years or both. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Those in favor say aye. Those in favor say nay. The ayes have it. 104. 104.
B, that's page 125. After B, we should have a C there. What I'm suggesting here is that a person who knowingly directs, misuses police officer to illegally arrest, assault, harass any group or group of persons commits act. Because we have all these experiences in this country, sir. People misuses police to go and harass other people. So I thought we should have a C added there.
It's very important, sir.
It is.
I rise to second the motion moved by Senator Yusuf to include a clause that shows misuse of police.
107. Those in favor that 107, 108, 109, 110 stands part of bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. Chairman, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate reverse plenary for the chart report progress.
Mr. Chairman, I second that the Senate revert to plenary to report progress.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Consider the report of the Committee on Police Affairs on the Police Reform Bill 2019 and approve as follows. Clauses 1 to 6 as recommended, 7 as amended, 8 to 97 as recommended, 98 as amended, 99 as recommended, 100 as amended, 101 as recommended, 102 to 103 as amended, 104 to 134 as recommended. Schedule as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the bill be now read the third time.
Mr. President, I second that the bill be read a third time.
Clerk of Senate.
Senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Police Act, Cap P19, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, and enact the Nigerian Police Act, 2019, to provide for the framework for the police service and ensure cooperation and partnership between the police and communities in maintaining peace and combating crime, and for related matters, 2019, third reading.
Police Act Cap P19, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and enact the Police Act 2019 to provide for the framework for the police service and ensure cooperation and partnership between the police and communities in maintaining peace and combating crime, and for related matters 2019 is read a third time and passed. I want to thank particularly the police committee, the chairman and members. I want to thank all our colleagues for their contribution and the work in passing this. I thank the deputy leader and all those who have contributed for this very important bill. As we all notice, it's since 1943, nothing has been done in addressing the Police Act and the reform. And this is go a long way to show that we are a listening Parliament, listening Senate, and there's nothing better we can do in honor of those who have lost their lives along the way due to some of the facts that our laws at that time were not in line with what to ensure that our people are protected at all times. So I think this is a very great achievement for all of us, and I hope we continue to provide better security for our people, protect lives of citizens, and also ensure that the police officers will have better conditions and are more productive. Thank you.
Six constitution alteration bills were also passed for second reading. These include a bill that seeks to provide that state governors and the president should present annual budgets 3 months before the end of the year, while legislators should endeavor to pass the bill before the end of the year. And it is on that note that we conclude the program for this week. I am Dennis Adigmu. Thank you for watching.
For anyone who values financial security and ultimately desires financial freedom, creating at least one additional stream is no longer a luxury. It has become a necessity. Diversifying your income stream is crucial to protect yourself and your family against the unavoidable ups and downs of economic and industry cycles. Because of the financial risk that comes from relying on one source of income, such as a job or a business, consider creating at least one or more additional streams to generate cash flow. The benefits of having multiple streams of income include peace of mind because you know there will always be money to spend. Also, you will earn much more than you currently earn from your day's job. Therefore, you will live bigger and better. Your additional income streams can be active, passive, or a combination of the two. Some may pay you for doing something that you love, active, while others can provide income for you without having to do much of anything at all, passive. Here are multiple streams of income opportunities: selling information in hard book format, selling information in the form of downloadable ebooks, making money from referral opportunities, training classes, consulting opportunities, dealership opportunities, design opportunities, manufacturing opportunities, investment opportunities. The list is definitely not exhaustible. To create wealth, you must make investment that will create dependable streams of income flows, independent of your main source of income. The time to act is now. Begin implementing this practice, and before you know it, within months, you can be enjoying the benefits and the financial security and freedom that comes from having multiple streams of income.
Welcome to Abuja, the place that unites Nigeria.
President Muhammadu Buhari inaugurates projects in Lagos State, says improved infrastructure will remain top priority of his administration.
These projects by Lagos State are perfectly aligned with the efforts of the federal government to improve the country's infrastructure.
On security, Senate advocates urgent development of security agencies along border communities of Taraba and Benue states.
World Health Organization announces malaria vaccine. Good news for malaria endemic
Evidence
countries.
generated from these three sites, that's Malawi, Kenya, and Ghana, will be used in scaling up the vaccine to other countries.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we'll focus on management of Nigerian cities.
Available data reveals that the population of Nigeria has been increasing at an alarming rate, where towns and cities are growing rapidly. In 1921, the population of Nigeria was only 18.7 million, but today it is hitting 200 million.
That's right, Juma. You know, the population in most major towns increased significantly in major cities like Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, Maiduguri, Kaduna, Ibadan, Jos, Ilorin, among others, over the years.
And Kieran, for example, the growth of Ibadan is a classical example of urban sprawl in Nigeria, as Ibadan is said to be one of the largest cities in West Africa.
Well, we were told growing up that Ibadan is actually the largest city in West Africa, actually. You know, but what matters is how planned the city is, or rather is Ibadan. We'll get into that when the program commences in full swing. Now, the growth of Nigerian cities has been progressively complicated by a litany of interrelated problems that are associated with human settlements and the environment. For example, the demand for infrastructure, water, power, housing, and other infrastructure is on the increase.
And that's on the front border, Kieran. Issues of sanitation, waste management, crime, social conflict, governance, and management also need attention. Plus, of course, funding.
Now, the catch here is with a huge rural to urban drift. What are the challenges of managing Nigerian cities to provide comfort and opportunities for the people? To what extent are city master plans followed? How does technology assist in managing modern cities?
Tough questions there, Kieran. That, I guess, will be answered by experts that will be joining us in the course of the program today. I am Jumma Yusuf, welcoming you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA.
And I am Kieran Umay. I also have to join my colleague Jumai to welcome you to this particular edition of the program. We are broadcasting live from Nigeria's capital city of Abuja. As always, we'll bring you a complimentary part of the program, which, of course, will include a newspaper review, we'll have business, sports, and entertainment. But for now, let's go straight to the news highlights for the day. And we have Abdul Malik due to do that. Malik, good to see you.
Good to see you, Kieran. Many thanks for joining us on the news. President Muhammadu Buhari says consensus development of high-impact infrastructure will continue to be prioritized by the governing All Progressives Congress, APC, as a deliberate attempt towards vastly improving the lives of Nigerians. The president was speaking in Lagos while inaugurating several iconic people-oriented projects executed by the Akinwumi Ambode administration in various sectors of the economy.
Your Governor Akinwumi Ambode has performed satisfactorily, and we should all commend him for his contributions to the growth and development of Lagos State. These projects by Lagos State are perfectly aligned with the efforts of the federal government to improve the country's infrastructure.
These projects would not have been possible without Mr. President and his quiet but impactful decision to approve and release the payments of the Paris Club refund.
Meanwhile, the Lagos State Governor Akinwumi Ambode has assured Nigerians that the 500-seater Lagos Theatre inaugurated by President Muhammadu Buhari will further develop tourism, arts and entertainment in Lagos and Africa at large.
We know that there are no white-collar jobs anymore. They can create jobs for themselves through this place. So I just use this. Like we said, we have 4 already. Others will be constructed, and also the incoming government also will continue from where we will stop.
President Muhammadu Buhari has unveiled the reconstructed Institute of Maternal and Child Health Facility, popularly known as NTA House, located within the premises of Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. NTA House, which is adjudged Nigeria's biggest maternity hospital, was upgraded from 8-bed facility to a 170-bed healthcare center with state-of-the-art medical equipment and information technology.
We are aware that universal and basic primary health care is one of the items priorities of your administration. Following in this direction, we have consciously worked to bring quality, affordable and modern health care to all our citizens.
This facility can do more specialized care that the old one never had. If you're going to get, the old one had just about 2 theaters. This one has 5 theaters.
And senators advised the federal government to urgently ensure deployment of enough security presence along the border communities of Taraba and Benue State. The motion, moved by Deputy Minority Leader Emmanuel Abuja, drew the attention of the Senate to the crisis involving youth of these communities.
That event preceding the Easter break, like I said, is a sad one indeed because over 30 lives were lost.
What started as a little problem between the villages of Kente and Vase in Taraba and Benue State now blossomed into a complete fight.
It is sad, but we need to work hard to bring peace once again to these two communities that have been living side by side in peace.
The announcement of the emergence of a malaria vaccine by the World Health Organization that is currently being used to immune children against malaria in Malawi is one good news from the medical world that has raised the hope of those living in malaria endemic countries such as Nigeria.
Countries, we should pilot the vaccine in a few countries in order to generate local evidence on introduction, on feasibility, and on use. And so this is what this initial phase of introduction is about.
Nigeria is a very important country, among the high burden country. This has not been thrown out of. It is an option that definitely be considered. But as of now, let's look at the strategy that exists. The government has already deployed.
Now, what comes to your mind when you hear the word immunization, prevention, safety, vaccination? Well, the Nigerian Health Forum is taking proactive steps to deploy a plan to increase the awareness of gains of immunization.
Immunization is the first port of call. Every child has a right to health. And what does immunization do? It makes sure that at least basic health comes to pass.
You can have immunization up to the first first year of life, but the other diseases are coming, which you need people to be vaccinated.
The negative impact of oil spills on the marine environment and its effect on the livelihood in the coastal communities can better be imagined. However, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, and the National Spill Detection and Response Agency, NOSDRA, are tackling the issue headlong.
This MOU is a commitment made by the two agencies and should not stop on this signing ceremony, but should continue to guide and guard our actions at even targeting zero oil spill in the country and region at large.
Now, how does it sound when a dominant continental organization seeks collaboration with a sub-regional organization with a well-structured trade policies? The corollary effect is, therefore, a better economic environment.
Trade policies and agreements do not operate in a vacuum, but rather they are connected to several other trade and trade-related policies and strategies, such as transport, immigration, customs, health.
We also have a draft ECOWAS common trade policy, which is currently undergoing national consultations in the member states, in line with the request of our ECOWAS ministers of trade, going to a decade ago.
And that's the news. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kirian and Jumai after this break.
What's up?
His friends didn't come.
Hey, let's practice.
But you're going out.
Don't worry about me.
Nothing satisfies a mother more than seeing a child grow up. But I know as he sweats, he'll face the risk of germs which can cause skin irritation.
That's why you need the new best ever Dettol Cool. Its new advanced formulation with extra menthol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs and gives your family icy cool freshness.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Nigerians, sweet
suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Helen!
Hey, where's your mom?
Today is her toilet day.
What?
Helen!
Toilet day?
Tomorrow you're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation.
Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with all this, it still won't be party ready.
Impossible!
Challenge? New Ticker Harpic 10X. Even if you use this solution 10 times, it won't give you the same cleaning like Harpic because its new Ticker formulation sticks to the bowl better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet.
Wow!
New Harpic 10X
gives me the freedom from toilet day.
You are watching Good Morning Nigeria on the Nigerian network, on the network service of the NTA. Let's now join Kunle Ade for some business stories.
A total subscription of 80.41 billion naira was received from intending investors for the 20 billion naira worth bond, which represents a 400% subscription rate. The larger chunk of the subscription is from assets manager and insurance companies who are aiming a long-term valuable assets to match their liabilities. The Debt Management Office offered a total of 100 billion naira in tenors of 5, 10 and 30 years at the auction and received total subscription of 149.3 billion naira, representing about 150%, while it allotted a total of 97.40 billion naira to successful bidders at 14.55% for the 10-year and 14.80% for the 30-year FGN bond. In another development, the Central Bank of Nigeria on Wednesday continued its mediation in the interbank foreign exchange market by intervening with $210 million to sustain liquidity in that segment of the market. Authorized dealers in the wholesale segment were offered $100 million, while those in the small, medium enterprises (SMEs) segment got $55 million. Foreign exchange for invisibles such as tuition fees, medical payments, and basic travel allowance and others also got $55 million. Director of Corporate Communications of the bank, Isaac Okorafor, who confirmed the transactions, said the CBN will continue to ensure the availability of forex in order to stabilize the markets. And next is the graphic representation of Wednesday's tradings on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With business news, I'm Kunle Ade.
It's been Kunle Ade with today's business news. Well, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria, and next on this program is Newspaper Review.
And our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atuebi, is in the studio. You're welcome. Good morning.
Thank you, Juma. Good morning.
Good morning,
Kira.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
We have about five newspapers
this morning.
Yes. You would like to start?
Yes, we'll be starting, actually, Bayo, with the Nigerian pilot.
Yes.
Just below the masthead, we have NLC 6 PD implementation of 30,000 naira minimum wage. That's on page 9. And OAU Teaching Hospital commends federal government after a successful heart surgery. And the headlines there speaks. Reps probe 21 billion naira loss in oil deals, with riders saying deal is between NNPC and International Oil Corps. Deal under Production Sharing Contract PSC scheme. Begins review of 2004 Act on Production Sharing Act. Revealed that federal government loses $8 million daily due to lack of review. That's on page 8. And the picture message there speaks for itself. President Muhammadu Buhari with children there celebrating and seeing the president for the first time. There's so much joy on their face. And just below the picture message, Osun gubernatorial appeal court reserves judgment as Oyetola APC INEC asks court to obtain verdict. That's on page 7. And at the bottom plate of the Nigerian pilot, Senate declares Kogi status as oil-producing state. You find that on page 8. Anxiety in University of Uyo as one student dies in renewed cult clashes. That's on page 13. Multinational Joint Task Force kills 3 terrorists, injures many, recovers explosive device. You find that on page 10. Reps adjourn hurriedly over fear of attack by Shiites movement. It's on page 5. National Security and Civil Defense officers to undergo psychiatric test following Gombe killing. You find that on page 7. And at the very, very bottom of the Nigerian pilot, Plateau PDP suspends chairman deputy over alleged misappropriation of IDP funds. That's on page 9. Kieran.
All right, let's turn to the Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper. We begin from top to bottom. We have a gate man rejects a house offer, opts for borehole in his community. And now it's on page 7. Saudi Arabia to build refinery in Nigeria. Page 3 is where you get that story. Now, the lead headline this morning on Daily Trust is NMA fumes as Ngige says Nigeria has surplus doctors. And if you look at a graphic illustration there, we just let you know that the WHO benchmark, is 1 doctor to 600 patients. But Nigeria, from this assessment, shows that it's 1 doctor to 5,000 patients. You can get more facts on this on the Daily Trust newspaper front page. And now below at the bottom of the Daily Trust, we have other stories. Senate defers 2019 budget passage again. It's on page 3. Stop putting babies or toddlers in front of screens. WHO says it's on page 10. Then Atiku, our victory seen on INEC server not concocted. Details on page 13.
And before we go to bio, let's go to the Daily Sun newspaper. Just beside the masthead, we have 96 million GSM subscribers in trouble over registration. With the rider NCC verifying details, plans to sanction telecom marketing chiefs over breach. You find that on page 7. And the headlines reads, Reps adjourn abruptly as Shiites storm National Assembly. With rider Senate to pass 2019 budget Tuesday. Was on page 4 and on page 7. And the picture message says it all. President Buhari in Lagos there, during the unveiling of the plaque to commission the reconstructed Institute of Maternal and Child Health of Atlasut in Ikeja, Lagos, there with the governor of Lagos, Akinwumi Ambode. Just beside the picture message, I will end Tinubu Saraki rift. Kalu on page 6. Minister, NMA, NERD disagree on number of doctors. That was on page 8. Measles outbreak hits Katsina, Borno, Yobe. Over 20 million children worldwide mixed vaccination. That's by UNICEF. And illegal mining costs of Zamfara banditry. You find that on page 3, says FG.
Well, let's start from Lagos, where President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday commended Governor Akinwumi Ambode for satisfactory performance. The president says that he described the performance of the governor as outstanding and contributing to the development of Lagos. The August visitor was in Lagos to commission projects, among which were the Oshodi transfer interchange system, the high-capacity public buses comprising 820 buses, as well as the reconstruction of Murtala Mohammed International Airport Road and the remodeling of Anyike House into an ultra-modern institute for maternal and child health. The August visitor in April thanked the people of Lagos, saying that it's the second time he's visiting Lagos this year, and he thanked them for supporting him. The other controversy is coming from about Minister of Labour and Employment, who had made a pronouncement about the status of doctors in Nigeria. Apparently, he was asked if he was worried about the exodus of doctors in Nigeria. Of recent, so many doctors sat for examinations seeking greener pastures abroad. And his comment about it has been taken very strictly by the Nigerian Medical Association. And they buttressed the fact that Nigeria has 45,000 doctors, and the ratio is 1 doctor to 5,000, which is far, far below the World Health Organization recommendation, which is 1 to 600,000. They also lament that Organization of African Union has a benchmark that 15% of budget ought to be dedicated to health care. But in Nigeria, since 2001, as low as 5% have been dedicated to health. But there was also another aspect that the Minister of Labour mentioned. He said many doctors who are working abroad, who go abroad to work, gather a high-class experience, acquire equipment, and many send a lot of money, resources, dollars, back to Nigeria. And so when they return, come and also establish high-class hospitals. So he was also looking at the bright side of it, but certainly there is an exodus for greener pastures elsewhere outside of Nigeria.
It was after the long-term gains, from that. We churn out medical doctors on a yearly basis in this country. And I want to see from the part of Nkige, actually, because even before now, people from all professions have always looked for greener pastures, not just medical doctors. So,
well, medical doctors, even nurses, are in high demand abroad. And if you are qualified and certified, is high demand. And even the current Minister of Health, if you recall, go back to 1983, he was in fact a union member of the Nigerian Medical Association, and he was one of those who fought strongly against the exodus of doctors during the era between 83, 84, up to about 85. So it has been a phenomenon that has been ongoing for a long time. But something has to be done about it, because one of the best doctors abroad in the United States, you are told that the best heart surgeons are Nigerians. Several of them elsewhere, but it goes to show that if we had the environment conducive here, they will work here. I remember in 1989, I was part of the NTA coverage to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has established a massive hospital for sports health care. Exactly. The professor in charge was a Nigerian.
Yeah, I think what is lacking, in that sector is actually the needed infrastructure. The infrastructure, because the world has gone sophisticated, in medical practice, the equipment, facilities, and even knowledge. Because these days now, you need to read so wild to be able to appreciate the modern trends, in the medical profession. And most of our doctors who travel abroad get to go to, Ghana experience, and bring them back. That's what Ngige is arguing. But of course, we have to take care of the domestic
need, of our charity should begin at home.
Exactly. It's more felt when doctors leave this country, because 1 doctor to 5,000 patients, that's alarming. Yes, exactly. Kieran.
All right, now let's turn to the leadership newspaper for this morning. We'll still go from top to bottom. Supreme Court never ordered us to pay by a Courtney 132 billion naira, says AMCON. AMCON stands for Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria. Well, Ambode has performed creditably, says President Muhammadu Buhari. And now the lead story on the leadership newspaper this morning: fierce battle for new cabinet jobs rages in states. With the 2 riders, it's payback time. Lobbyists tell governors-elect. And incoming governors woo opposition with juicy offers. All right, and the picture story there is quite interesting. The son of the governor of Lagos State, Ambode, prostrating to say hello to Mr. President. That's indeed interesting. And now below that, we have a federal government needs 900 billion naira to fix refineries, says Kachuku. It's on page 5 of the leadership newspaper. Now, NJC backs Kogi government on data capturing of judiciary workers. It's on page 2. Now, SON confiscates fake products worth 300 billion naira. Page 33. And appeal court reserves judgment in Osun governorship election on page 7. Senate to pass 2019 budget on Tuesday, also on page 7. Now, federal government's 30-year bond oversubscribed by 49.30 billion naira is on page 31. And finally here, shared protesters cause panic in National Assembly.
And I'm enamored by the picture, the greeting there. Yeah. You know, it's very traditional. It shows you that the governor accultured his children very well. Exactly. Boys in the southwest greet by prostration, and you can see the boy in full-length prostration. Girls greet by kneeling. Okay. And so it's not like some of us who tend to adopt the Western cultures because we live in cities, and when you come, how are you? And they will stretch their hands, good morning.
We call them digital children. Now, moving to the Daily Independent, above the masthead, federal government seeks Russia's help to eliminate Boko Haram. You find that on page 4. 6 burned to death in Atio fire outbreak. On page 4 still. And MTN converts into public company to list on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. You find that on page 43. Just below the masthead, Shiites break into National Assembly, chase away policemen. With a rider, Senate reps hurriedly adjourn for safety. And the picture message tells us all. And beside the picture message, Supreme Court didn't order us to pay by Courtney 132 billion naira from AMCON. University of Uyo boils as cult clashes claim lives. You find that on page 43. Ambode has performed satisfactorily. Buhari, that's on page 5. And at the bottom plate, panic as poisonous pomo floods Lagos markets. You find that on page 4. Southeast APC holds emergency meeting over 9th National Assembly leadership. You find that on page 43. Kieran?
No, let's go to Barry now.
Let me quickly, a story that we were running yesterday. You recall yesterday that we were talking about Nigeria Civil Aviation threatening to pull down some masts. Now, the Association of Telecom, Alton, Nigeria Association of Licensed Telecom Operators, have called the bluff of NCAA. They said if they pull off their masts, they will only be plunging the nation into telecommunication blackouts. And the association is said that they are surprised by the stand of the NCAA because they held a meeting, and after the meeting they came up with that pronouncement. And they are asking, the payment of aviation height clearance is a one-off thing. Why do they have to pay more money for the renewal when the mast has not increased in height? So it has become a subject of renewal after the expiration of the certificate.
You recall that we discussed this sometime last or yesterday.
Yes.
Right, but the issue, according to what we read, was not necessarily about payment. It was about positioning, about the height, about disruption of flights and what have you. That's what I understood. But now...
But the argument is that the masts are already in existence. Height clearance certification has been made and fees have been paid. What they are asking for now is renewal of that payment, and they are arguing that the mast has not increased in height. However, the NCC, which is the regulator for telecoms, has also put its fees down that it is a requirement of law to pay for the aviation height certificate. Therefore, telecoms will have to comply.
So that now that's renewal.
I think they will sort themselves out.
Okay. Also, the other, it will be funny.
Yes. Well, everybody is trying to strive by asserting his power on this, but eventually, for the benefit of their public they serve, I'm sure they will come to agreement. The other interesting story is from Daily Trust. It has listed what a place this is called Notorious Blackout in Abuja, and they include Utaku Market, Amigo Supermarket area, Garki Area 11, between NTA here and Aegis. They say that here, thieves indulge using master keys to take away cars. In the Utako market, one of the thieves will follow a car owner into the market, and when he follows and they've gone far, he will signal the others and they will move with the car. In the Amigo area, he says that sometimes the thieves stalk and follow the type of car they want to steal, And immediately the owner parks and leaves. They walk courageously with master key and move away with the car. And the Abuja Police Command has been up and doing. They arrested one man whose name is Destiny Sunday. He specializes in dispossessing taxi drivers of their taxi. He takes the taxi in Abuja City, take them to Jabi area, and then he points a gun at them. And his accomplice, one Obadiah, who is at large now, drives away the car. But he has been nabbed. He's done that 7 times. The other strategy they use is that they go to price a car at car dealer's place, and they insist they want to test drive the car. The car dealer allows his boy to follow them. They shoot the boy, throw him out, and go away with the car. So one has to be exceptionally very careful. But however, they are always conscious of cars that have security devices, especially alarm. They avoid those ones.
Now, you don't want to speak about the poison pomo. Is it because you are...
You don't like pomo?
But you see, the idea of poison pomo, the poison is not from pomo, it is from the processing method. Okay. Some use tires.
Yes.
Tires to process. You burn tires, which has, of course, poisonous chemicals from burnt rubber to take off the skin, the hair on the pomo. That's when it becomes toxic. So it is the process, it's not... Pomo itself that is poisonous, but it's the processing that makes it very poisonous.
All right, let's turn to the editorial now. And it's entitled, We Must Review Capital Budget. Findings by the Fiscal Responsibility Commission that only 1.4 trillion naira of the 2.7 trillion provision of 2017 was released. It reveals that the government has not overcome decades-long fiscal habits that drain scarce revenue for services at the expense of wealth-creating infrastructure. Bayo.
Well, the essence of development in any economy is based specifically on capital budget, because it's the aspect of the capital budget that goes for development, for infrastructure, or whatever developments that the nation proposes. But the lamentation here is that even at the current 2017 budget, only 33.73% of the capital budget was released. And people tend to get carried away that when you say you budget a huge sum for capital budget, it's not as if the money is there. It is when the money is generated and is available, that is when it can be available for development. But what the editorial is lamenting that, in spite of the fact of scarcity of resources, recurrent expenditure almost get provided for almost 100%, and it was always capital expenditure that suffers. And if we, as a nation, we have to develop, we must make a habit of increased capital expenditure. That has been a factor that this current administration has been emphasizing. There has been tremendous improvement, but not as required, particularly to move our impetuses forward. And you also will recall that a substantial part of the budget is on a deficit basis, which means you have to rely on borrowed terms and borrowed sums to be able to implement and carry
All right, Bayo, I would like to appreciate your analysis this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
We hope to see you again tomorrow morning on the same platform. Thank you. And we also thank you for staying with us up to this moment on your Breakfast television show. We will return after this break for us to now get into the main topic for conversation this morning on this show.
When I was a little girl, I loved spending time with Mum and Grandma cleaning the house. I was so excited to sing in the choir.
And your shirts are always so white.
I knew what Mum's secret was. Today, I'm a modern woman that still trusts the secrets passed down to me. It's Jik, of course. The original trusted bleach, which can be used all around your house for amazing results.
Shh, it's our little secret.
It's no secret. It's Jik's best ever extra whitening power. Just Jik it.
Why don't you people sell imported materials here? As beautiful as the shop is.
Auntie, buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. Really? And to make Nigeria great again, that is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me.
I'm convinced. Change begins with me too. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Thanks for staying. And to set the tone for our topic this morning, which borders on managing Nigerian cities, let's take this background report put together by our correspondent Abdul Salam Jibril.
With a rapidly growing population and high rate of rural-urban migration, Nigeria has been witnessing rapid urbanization, with towns and cities across the country growing phenomenally. There are many cities in the country with populations of over 1 million people, with Lagos, Kano, Ibadan, Port Harcourt, and the Federal Capital Territory among some of the highly populated. These cities have been growing without commensurate planning and management ideas to take care of the needs of the residents. Studies reveal that many of these Nigerian cities are either unplanned or where the plan exists, they are not followed religiously and end up bastardized by a wanton disregard for relevant laws. This has led to unplanned and uncontrolled growth, which is not only indiscriminate, but has led to problems such as poor sanitation and refuse disposal, overstretched and poor health services, insecurity, squalor and shanty settlements, inadequate transport systems, infrastructural decay, traffic gridlocks, and many more. For cities like Lagos and Abuja, which have master plans, there is the continuous battle on how to actualize what has been put on paper, as many distortions continue to threaten the original plan for city development. Ironically, some of the infrastructure provided are sometimes vandalized by people who have no regard for the well-being of all. There is therefore a clear challenge of managing cities in Nigeria, which many believe needs to be handled by experts using modern tools and relevant laws. Does Nigeria assemble the right experts to manage its cities? What is the cost of managing Nigerian cities, and how do the citizens contribute to successful city management? Experts will be providing answers in a moment.
And to discuss today's issue on managing Nigerian cities, we have Omar Shoaibu, Coordinator, Abuja Metropolitan Management Council. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, sir.
And also here with us in the studio is Felix Owaldu, a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police. Also, we're glad to have you this morning, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And from Lagos, we're joined in this conversation by Mr. Moses Ogunle, a town planner. Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for being here this morning for this very important topic. Now, urbanization is a defining phenomenon of the 21st century. And developing nations such as Nigeria are locals of this demographic transformation. Now, let's get your view. Let me begin with Shoaibu. What is your assessment of Nigeria's city development? You can take it back to the colonial era when modern cities started in Nigeria.
Yes, the Nigerian example is such that when we go back to the colonial era, we found out that our cities are properly managed in the traditional way, in which our traditional setting are things that we consider to manage our city. Take an example of in the north here. We have the traditional Hausa community where you have the emir of Chief Palace close to the market, close to the place of worship. And if you go to the western region also, you have the Chief's Palace or the Oba's Palace, close to what we have the markets and the courts. all within the same environment. And taking a cue on that, that is how we also plan our modern city today in Abuja. That is why we have what is called the neighborhood concept in planning of this capital city. Because we have to marry the modern system and our traditional way. So here, what we consider as the units in the neighborhood are facilities. What are the facilities? You have the shopping centers, the shops, like we have in Area 1 and Area 2. We have the shopping centers. And close to the shopping centers, we have community halls, you have family clinics, you have primary schools, you have police post, you have the post office, local post office, I will know it before. So these are the facilities we provide at the neighborhood center. And you don't need to travel across any arterial way before you can obtain your daily needs. If it is health-wise, you have family clinic. If it is school, you have primary school. Now we graduate to the city center. In the city center, we provide a greater hierarchy. That is for the schools. We have secondary school at the city centers. We have the fire station at the city center. We have general hospital at the city center, at the district centers. At the neighborhood, you have family clinic. At the district center, we have general hospital. And these are the type of facilities that we find. And then we graduate to the city level, where you have the city center, where you have the headquarters of the multinational companies. That is how we graduate the planning in Abuja. So that is how it is today. Unfortunately, we are not able to manage it well because of the scramble for land. You find out that all these systems are now being sidetracked by people that are looking for land. Either if somebody wants a land in a residential area, if you don't have a residential plot in that place, somebody, because he's influential, will insist that he will have to have a house there. And at the end of it, you find out it's a commercial area. Or if it is a commercial plot that somebody wants, and that is a residential, only residential provision for that area, you will change the use from residential to commercial. And that is why we have crises in our cities. We must be disciplined and obey the constitutional authority. When we plan, we must respect that plan for our betterment.
Okay, thank you very much for your starting introduction. We'll now go to Lagos, where Mr. Moses Ogule is standing by. He's a town planner. You know, managing cities is a very difficult task, and Lagos, for instance, has an annual urban rate of 5.8%. Urbanization in Nigeria is mainly demographically driven without commensurate socio-economic growth and benefits to urban communities. So how do we cushion the effect of migration to cities, and how is town planning helping to maintain the status quo?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy you mentioned the word migration, and that's a key factor in the growth of Lagos. You gave a figure of 5.6 as the growth rate for Lagos. Indeed, we have had a figure for 8% growth rate for Lagos, and that is why migration is very key. Indeed, the growth rate of Lagos has been due more to migration. People have seen Lagos as a place for work, high level of economic opportunities. So the tendency that more people will want to come and live and work in Lagos. And in Lagos and even other cities of Nigeria, urbanization has become a big challenge. I think we seem to know, but we seem not to have been acting in meeting these challenges. Mr. Shuaibu raised the issue of how to plan the city. I know that Lagos has a big master plan and other plans that we can refer to as lower order plans. Those are the lower order plans that you can feel, you can relate with. But because we have plans that we are not able to properly implement, the challenge or the challenges have been there. I don't believe, going by what Mr. Shuaibu said, that we should allow people to develop non-residential uses in residential zones. And that is where enforcement should come in. So when we have plan, we should also be very active in managing our cities. In planning, we say nobody has unlimited rights. Whether you are a president, whether you are a governor, whatever your social status, you must, and I repeat again, you must obey what the planning regulations or rules says. But we've seen instances where government itself deviates from the plan. And it's interesting to note that you'll be wondering, but it is the government that funds the preparation of this plan, and the chief actor in not wanting to follow the plan has also been government agencies. So for management, you manage the land, you manage the facilities. And what are these facilities that will make a city to function very well? Power, water, road, security, recreation. If you work, you must recreate. You must go to school. So those are the issues: school, health, and other social infrastructure. So really, it is the interplay of the market that we are not able to properly regulate. And that is what planning ought to be doing, to make sure that the industrialist that needed to locate his factory is allowed to locate his factory. Not anywhere, but in land area that have been designated for location of industries. The city center for commercial development, for some mixed development, yes, but not that you develop more than what the plan has said you can do. And that is where we have to have a blend between planning and management. I give an example of Lagos. In the last 12 years, Lagos State government, I'm aware, has spent so much money in preparing plans. And we have said, good to prepare plans. Then we should be serious. When I say we now, I'm referring to Lagos State, for instance, about implementing those plans. Otherwise, they will just become an effort in futility. So, Lagos taking action, Abuja taking action, Port Harcourt taking action. We should go beyond those micro actions and make sure all the various plans are made effective, become functional, so that our cities can be more orderly, more efficient, and become safer for all of us to live in.
To what extent can you say Nigerian cities are planned? How do they plan it? And to what extent have they been implementing measures to ensure that the master plan is not, taken away from the actual way it is planned?
Well, it is interesting. When you have a plan, we always say this is the way the plan should be implemented. For instance, as town planner, we will say you can face your development. We know usually our plans are time-based. All the major master plans you have in Nigeria, for Lagos, I know another one is just being completed for Ibadan City. Usually 20 years. We call them long-range plan. And we say, we know you can achieve all the inputs in that plan within a short time. So we say short term, medium term, and long term. And it will be in the plan what should be done within the first 5 years, what should be done in the second 5 year, the third 5 year, and the preceding, the last part of the 20-year plan. So if you have a plan, what are the micro-level activity that you can implement in that plan? For instance, most master plan for cities will have tackled the issue of urban renewal. Most of our cities are like human beings. Yeah, they have their young age, middle age, and old age. So most of our major cities are now at their some part of them are getting older. And when they get older, you have big problem of sanitation, crime, weak buildings, old buildings that become inhabitable, and they become high risk buildings. So you now have a micro plan in the big master plan that will have addressed the issue of urban renewal. But we discovered that for some reasons, the governor or the government could say lack of funds. But we said, we know you don't need to go and get the billions within 2 years. What can you do in 2 years that you will have been okay to say, I've implemented this part of the plan? So there is a commitment to do plan or to prepare plan. There's weak commitment to implementing the plan. And as I had mentioned earlier, it will be effort in futility. I know many cities now have many, but not as much as we expected. Our state capitals, many of them still don't have development plans. So we've been growing our city, or our cities have been expanding without proper plans. And we have told governors, what you should do is to realize the fact that development cannot precede planning. Planning should come before development. And it will be more efficient and more effective to say, these are the roads that I want to develop. I want to build 20 schools. The master plan will say, these are areas where you can build your schools. In this area, the population is so dense, they need 5 public schools within the next 5 years. Develop these 5 public schools in this area before you move into another level. But most times, they talk about funds. Some city managers, local government, chairmen, governors, think otherwise, and usually you have some failures. And we have a challenge, and that is why some people have said in Nigeria we should have what we call city mayors. Lagos has 16 of its local government. Let's say we have 20 local government as part of the metropolitan Lagos. What it means is that Lagos Metropolis has 17 quote-unquote governors, a state governor, and 16 local government chairmen, all taking decision about how the city of Lagos should grow. That doesn't look reasonable. It means the man in Mushin local government, for instance, is looking at health, at education, at recreation, at security, without connecting very well with the man in Shomolu local government, where it has boundary, or with the man in Koshofe local government that shares a boundary with it. So maybe that could be a constitutional matter. We should be looking at an instance where you have a central manager. I think Abuja is a good case. And that's what Mr. Shoabu is doing. Abuja has one coordinator, unlike other cities that have a governor that decides what goes on, and local government chairman, who ordinarily should be playing an active role in managing the cities.
All right, thank you indeed, Moses, for your analysis. As a matter of fact, you touched some very pertinent issues that make this topic very, very complex in terms of understanding the roles being played by all stakeholders, including government officials, be it state, local government, and what have you. We shall get to that as we make progress. But just to inform us that we now have a guest in Kaduna. He is Malam Idris Dauda Suleiman, former head of Department, Urban and Regional Planning Department, ABU Zaria, and former General Manager, Kasubda. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
Thank you. We're happy we have a clear signal, but we'll get back to you very shortly. Right now, let's talk to Felix Obaldo, retired Assistant Inspector General of Police. Now, non-adherence to regulatory measures has been a major setback in the management of cities in Nigeria. As a one-time law enforcement agent, what has been your experience, on issues concerning maintaining the urban planning or urbans and as they are planned? For instance, in some states in this country, you have premises of public schools being allocated to individuals, converting football pitches into residential areas in this country. So what has been your experience in terms of actions and inactions or responses in terms of who is following the laid down plan of cities where you have served as an AIG?
Well, thank you very much. One of our biggest challenges in Nigeria is the fact that our population keeps on increasing on a daily basis. And to that extent, it has brought so much pressure to bear on our facilities. Maybe some years back, schools that were meant for like 200-300 pupils, now you have close to 2,000 pupils. And it's also a challenge we have in our universities these days. The extent that within the lecture hall, few chairs are available. You see fine students listening to a lecture, standing outside, hearing through the windows, listening through the windows. So it's the same pressure that has been brought to bear on our facilities. And of course, that also has implications for security. Like the first speaker rightly observed, we really need to do so much, a lot more. In other political climes, you see, they don't just plan for today, they plan for tomorrow and beyond. If you take the Abuja airport, for instance, new structures sprang up. But right now, driving into the airport is a big challenge. And in the event that there's an emergency, to exit that place will be a problem. There's a lot of pressure. So we really need to address that. Some of the issues raised include, one, the level of compliance. Why will a plot of land, for instance, be allocated for a residential purpose, and somebody on his own, without applying for a variation, for a change, and get an approval, or turns it to a commercial property? It doesn't speak well. And that goes to tell us about having to sit up when it comes to enforcement. Any breach of any of these regulations, because there are laws, there are regulations, there are rules, which must be complied with. And like someone rightly observed initially, one of the problems we have in this country is this doctrine of inequality before the law. If it's a big boss who has done this, you look the other way. If somebody is very little down below, you crush him. There must be equality before the law. If somebody legally converts a plot meant for residential purpose to commercial, that allocation should be revoked and properly taken away from him or her. So we really need to synergize in all our efforts to make sure that we're compliant. Another example, another issue I want to talk about is when I came into Abuja way back 1994, 25 years ago, Abuja was very calm, population was quite low, and of course that time sewage was centralized. But because the city has grown so much, a lot of areas in the city today have their own boreholes, they have their own stackway pits and all of that, because they've not been provided for adequately. But at the time the concept of Abuja came up, and it was actualized, they ought to have done all of that in virtually all the areas, because that's what obtains in other places. If a place is spelled out for residential purpose, for instance, all the infrastructure will be in place. Electricity, water supply, drainage, human waste disposal, and all of that, centrally. But here we don't have that kind of thing. So we keep on having challenges of, maybe when the rains are here now, for instance, drainages will be blocked, then there'll be flooding. I was reading somewhere, someone was saying that if boreholes are too many, they have their consequences. I don't know what actually meant by that. But whether natural vibration, earth and all of that, tremors and all of that. because the pressure is so much on the ground. If you go to places like the US, for instance, all my years, all the times I've visited the US, I have never set my eyes on a soak pit in any of the major cities. You know, I've not set my eyes on a ball. All of these things are centralized. Power is guaranteed 24/7. But when you don't have all of this in place, you have a lot of challenges. One, the society will not be moving forward. Two, they also have serious implications for security too. Let me end it at that.
All right.
I will be going to Kaduna now. Thank you so much for your input. We'll get back to you in the course of the program. And right now we are with the Malam Idris Dauda in Kaduna Suleiman, former head of Department Urban and Regional Planning Department, Abu Zaria, and former General Manager Kusda. Kaduna is considered to be a cosmopolitan city, and it's quiet, you know, and it's expanding. When you look at Kaduna, you see a very quiet, serene area. How has the master plan of Kaduna been maintained so far?
Thank you very much. Kaduna was lucky in the first place to have a master plan way back in 1967, indeed 65. And that time it was supposed to run up to 2017. Like 2 years ago it should have finished. But as other speakers have said, the city has grown, especially in the 80s, have grown so fast that almost every provision that was made in that plan was overtaken by 1980, a plan that was supposed to go to up to 2017, i.e. the population has grown much bigger than what the planners expected at that time. Vehicle ownership has grown, housing has grown, almost everything else in Kaduna has grown. And truly, you find that Kaduna used to be very serene, as you said, but I am not sure whether one will call it so right now. I get disturbed when I've seen that when you go to the outskirts of Kaduna, like every outskirts of any city, there are so many uncontrolled, unorganized, unplanned developments. And this is really the problem of Kaduna, like the problem of most other cities. Of recent, the Kaduna State Government too has awarded a review of that plan for another 20 years, and the work is going on. And the approach of that plan maybe is to make sure that we don't stick to certain figures, but give a general direction. The truth of the matter is that Nigerian cities have grown beyond anybody's imagination. And the truth of the matter, I had my good friend Moses saying of Lagos, the truth of the matter is that even the planners have failed to really come to terms with the growth of the cities in this country. And of course, like he said, we did not have the discipline. Let me reiterate what I've kept on saying many, many times in every forum. This issue of planning is a matter of discipline. Whatever planning, not to talk of physical planning, that is my mentors, whatever planning, you must be able to be disciplined to do it. And I'm sure you know in this country, discipline is something that is a little bit far-fetched. Therefore, we have the glory of preparing plans. We do not even have the effort to prepare the plans. And planners are not God sent. They use certain schemes to make sure that they predict things. This prediction is supposed to be, it can change over time. If tomorrow the oil price has fallen for another 5 years, all the plans, maybe Moses talking about Lagos or even Abuja, will not come to reality. Therefore, it's not enough to just prepare a 20-year plan. Planners demand that after a reasonable period of not more than 5 years, that plan should be revisited and see whether the assumptions in the first place are right. Maybe the assumptions could be wrong, and the plans can therefore be wrong. So there has been a great effort now by the government of Kaduna State to really do another plan for another 20 years from now, and I expect the plan should be over by this year. And it's not the plan itself that is my problem. It's much easier to draw the plan. Of course, it's a very difficult thing drawing a plan, but it's much easier to draw a plan as regards to implement it. And the implementation has come in difficulty has come in various other ways. The lack of commitment, lack of funds, lack of information. And I want to stress that maybe the biggest single problem managing Kaduna or managing any city in this country is that you don't have adequate information. That is, cities don't have information. You can sit down and say, what is my focus next 5 years, 20 years, 30 years? The information is not there. There is hardly any city, maybe in Abuja, maybe to some extent Lagos. You can now go and say, look, what has been the car ownership in the last 5 years, and what is the prediction of the car ownership in the next 5 years? There is hardly any place you can go and get this information on the finger of your tip. Therefore, and even population, there is hardly any place you can now go and say with certainty. So every plan you prepare, you have to start all over again. That also itself takes a lot of time. But that as it may be, I think the challenge is to everybody. And I think it may even be appropriate to state that the management of the city is not just the duty of planners. In fact, they have overall much less than what people expect. It is everybody's responsibility. Politicians, industries, all of us, we have a role to play. Because we must really appreciate the fact that the city is just one unit, it's a system. And any other side, like Moses was saying, and the retired Haji is saying, if you have all the things that is good in a city, but you don't have primary schools for your kids, the city is not managed, it's not functional. And if you have everything but you don't have water, so it is our own responsibility. And we have not yet come to terms in this country, I must admit, to getting every critical stakeholder in the city management to really sincerely participate and then get committed.
All right, we appreciate your opening comment. You actually spoke from the point of knowledge, using Kaduna as a case in point. But one good point that he made is the fact that he said that when you leave the city center of Kaduna, you begin to see some, indiscriminate kind of erection of residential areas, which shows that such areas are unplanned. That brings us to the issue of urban slums, because globally it's said that about 1 billion people live in urban slums. And in fact, virtually every city in Nigeria has its own urban slums. In Abuja here, we have them. And at this point, I'd like to bring in our guest Omar Shaibu here, who's the coordinator of Abuja Metropolitan Management. Now, let's talk about management. How best can such areas be managed? It's a helpless situation presently because some cadre of people have to live in such areas that are poorly planned, let alone talking about management in terms of a provision of some social amenities like hospitals, toilets, schools, and what have you. So how can that be corrected, moving forward?
Yes, it all boils down to the population that are coming into the city. From the beginning, Abuja was planned to accommodate 3.1 million inhabitants at its ultimate population. And we are supposed to reach that level in the year between 2000-2005, according to original plan. Unfortunately, because of the paucity of funds, we are not able to develop all this infrastructure. When we are supposed to have reached the level of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4, by the year 2005-2006, we are only able to develop the phase 1. Even the phase 1, not 100%. We started the phase 2 much later. Now, the challenges that we are facing is that there is no adequate infrastructure. Just as Mr. Moses said earlier, the infrastructure, like the sewer. Abuja is supposed to have a central sewer system so that you don't need to have any soakaway in any plot in Abuja. We're able to provide all these facilities in areas that are agreed, that are recognized in the plan. Not to extend outside those areas that are not recognized in the plan. The outermost boundary of the city development ends with the outer northern expressway, what you call the Kuba Expressway, and then you have the southern expressway also that commences from AYA that goes down up to Kuje to Gwagwalada. That is OXS. That is the outermost level of the city development. Anything to the other side is considered as a buffer zone between the city and the regional area. So if you can observe the alignment of that outer northern expressway, when it started from Nyaya and goes up to Zuba, it follows the mountain ranges. Between that road and the mountain ranges, it's supposed to be green. Unfortunately, these areas are now developed as houses and are not recognized to have all these type of facilities. We have to think another way and then provide this in a subsequent plan. So facilities are not extended to all these places. In 2006, we conducted a statistics by the Abuja Traffic Division. We discovered that every day, 500,000 vehicles come into the city from the 3 major axes that feed Abuja with traffic: the Kuba Expressway, the Nyaya Expressway, the Airport Expressway. At least 500,000 vehicles. When you take a statistics and take a conservative estimate of 3 persons per vehicle, you are arriving at 4.5 million people coming into Abuja daily and going out daily. And we are supposed to have only 3.1 million inhabitants. We are not able to develop this city to that level and provide infrastructure. That is why that same year when there was census, we have only 1.4 million inhabitants resident within the city, when you are supposed to have 3.1. And then the regional areas, you are supposed to have 2.6 million. If you add all the city and its regional areas, you are going to have 5.7 million inhabitants. Unfortunately,
Omar Shoaibu, you are coordinator of Abuja Metropolitan Management.
Yes.
You have enumerated all the encumbrances, right, concerning management of these areas you have explained.
Yes.
What are you doing about that? Because according to our guest in Lagos, he noted that planning or management should be in stages, stage 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, when you have realized that Abuja now has an influx of or higher population, or more than expected, from when it was originally planned, what is the government or whatever authority as responsible doing now to cushion the effect of all this you're talking? Because we are concerned about management of the cities.
Yes, every year we manage. We make budget proposals, but the money is not there. I will tell you one important aspect. Every year, whenever we want to start using our budget, it has to be approved by the National Assembly. For the 2 years consecutively, FCT budget is not approved until 2 months to the end of the year. How are we going to implement, to have the resources to do this employment? When you start the procurement process, there was a time that we were questioned by the National Assembly when we commenced the procurement process prior to the approval by the National Assembly. You have only 2 months. Even if the money is there, how can we implement
What about the internally generated revenue?
We have the internally generated revenue, but it cannot match whatever that is needed within the city.
Okay.
So you see, this aspect, there must be agreement between all the stakeholders. They must know that we need this money. Example of the management of street light. Every year we budget 1.1 billion naira on the management of street light alone. Even this one is not enough. And this money, this fund is not approved as a window. So these are one of our major challenges. We have so many of them. We have vandalization. Even if we provide the facility, we have vandals around. So we provide the facility, vandals are there. We are just not disciplined. That is the issue. We must be disciplined in implementing our plans. We must also be disciplined in managing this. The planning of the city is everybody's responsibility, not the city manager. The city manager cannot do it alone unless he has information to help him manage the city, unless he has the law enforcement agencies, the general public to respect law and order. If we do not respect law and order, it's going to be very difficult. And what we are doing now to strengthen our enforcement rules, we are doing that. God willing, things are getting shape.
Okay, we'll now go to Lagos. Thank you so much for your contribution. We'll now go to Lagos, where Mr. Moses Ongule, a town planner, is waiting to answer some questions on city managers' response to adherence to development control regulations in city like Lagos. Like Mr. Shaibu said, he raised a lot of issues. Are you having the same problem in Lagos, or is it more than what is happening in Abuja right now?
Well, there are similarities, and that is expected. Almost every government, federal, state, local, will complain of low funds. But even I'm aware of some plans, there have been issues of how to partner other stakeholders in carrying out some development and managing them. There are two sides of the divide. Some have argued that there are some activities or services that you cannot actually allow private sector to manage because of the implication of users that will pay higher rates. So the other argument is that, okay, can we now allow government to provide it at a less efficient, in a less efficient manner, and people don't benefit? But we've told them they can balance it. There are other conditions that can be signed in the agreement. So in Lagos, I've been involved in preparing some plans. We have told the various actors that if you are a water service provider, or a sewage manager, or healthcare facility provider, you can't be working in silos. All the ministries, education, agric. It is interesting to note that in Lagos, we have some lands that the 1980 to 2000 master plan reserve as agric area, forestry, agric, and then land for conservation. As at 2014, 80% of those land have become residential land, and some recommendations were made. So demand in agric, demand in education, demand in transport, and particularly traffic, cannot be silos standing alone, because all their proposal, all their plan, all their thinking will come to land. Even demand in sports and recreation. If you are preparing a plan for sports, the sports and recreation matter will certainly be addressed. Your concern may not be about how many people should be doing, should be in swimming, how people should be doing long jump and playing volleyball. You have that fact from the sport people. You will now be thinking of where those facilities will be most appropriate located. At what level? We have higher order. For instance, the Abuja Stadium will refer to that as a higher order facility, regional indeed. It's not something that the people in the neighborhood will see as for them. But you could have other lower order facilities, children playground, community park, neighborhood park, where people can go recreate. and carry out some sport activities. So, for effective management, I know people now get delighted. All of them should talk. You see people, they are happy to say we have a sport and recreation master plan. People are so delighted to say we have a health development master plan. But whether you are talking of health, education, water supply, power supply, all those developments will be in space, and more specifically on land. So how will you not be relating with the man or with the agency or with the ministry that is in charge of locating facilities, maximizing the use of land in the way that everybody will benefit? We've also tried by advising government in Lagos and Ogun. Can we have what you call city limits? In other words, we know Lagos is growing. Can we say this is the limit of Lagos metropolis? So that anybody that is involved in managing it, if I'm doing security, I know this is a limit. And we said, can we have buffer, city buffer? So outside the buffer, you know you are outside Lagos metropolis, for instance. Within the buffer, and the buffer could be plantation, agric, heavily forest. So that would demarcate Lagos. It could be water facility. But Lagos has a lot of water, so much aquatic issues. So if we have that, if I'm planning for water, for instance, again, I know the population in that particular location. I know what each person per capita consumption of water in that particular location. So I can now allow the engineer who has his strength and weight in providing water supply to do his detailed plan for water. So funding, right? Plan implementation in discipline, very critical. Even when we are preparing the plans, some people still see it as exercise that, leave them, they are the experts, they are the professionals. And at the point made by my very senior in Kaduna, Malam Suleiman, is real. You know, when we prepare plans, we also need to be reviewing them at some intervals. Satellite or mast, as you did not become an issue in Nigeria, high number, until 2001 when we have the global system of mobile communication. So if you are doing a plan pre-2001, you probably not see telecom mast as an issue. But years after, whenever you are doing a plan, you will now be looking at telecom mast, location, implication, safety, health, and what have you. So indeed, we need to do more work in bringing together all the stakeholders from government angle and from private sector. I know what people talk about when we do what we call public display of plans. In Lagos, there have been some renewed interest. When plans are being prepared, communities now go there to talk, to express their view. I was involved in one. We were in one by federal government. We were trying to tell the community to allow us to locate their palace in another place. They said no. They said they want the palace to be where it is now, and we allow them to have their view. The one that will use the plan. So their views we consider very, very germane, and we left it at that. So when we are preparing plans, communities and indeed all stakeholders should show interest. In fact, the 1992 Urban Regional Planning Law says plan will not be worthwhile if at the stage of preparation they are not displayed for people to make comments, to make inputs. And it's a global practice. As town planner, we are not king philosopher. We are supposed to relate to people while we are preparing their plans. After all, we normally say in our practice, we plan with the people and not really plan for them.
Moses Ogule, thank you very much indeed. When you were starting this last comment, you talked about having similarities in terms of what the situation is in Lagos and elsewhere, especially Abuja. I hope we're not going to be having a kind of similarities of failure, because from all the scenarios that we have, you have painted here, it does seem that we have a huge problem on our hands with respect to city management in Lagos. With all its sophistication, we still have the issue of poor disposal of waste and generally waste management in Lagos, drainage problems still in Lagos, there's still pollution in Lagos. But it's supposed to be a mega city in this country. So, and when it happens in Lagos, what now, happens in other cities in the country? Of course, we have so many old cities in Nigeria, like Kaduna, Enugu, Ibadan, Lagos, and what have you. And from the opening salvo of our man in Kaduna, he made it so clear, that the plan started in 1967, right? And it's supposed to have expired in 2017. But from all indications, if you go to Kaduna today, you cannot feel the impact of a long-term development plan or management of the city. That means that we have shortfalls here and there. And now let's return to Abuja studio and talk to Obaudu. In terms of enforcement of those regulatory measures, it has been very difficult. And again, that has also to do with security. If people, as Moses said, different stakeholders should come together. Who are these stakeholders? It is government. It is the authority concerned with city management. It is, of course, the law enforcement agents, right? Yet, you will see indiscriminate erection of buildings in places meant for other uses. Why is that so?
Well, that takes us back to one of the numerous bad cultures plaguing us as a nation. The level of gross indiscipline in Nigeria is very alarming. And the level of compliance when it comes to regulation, rules, and all of that laws is very low too. And what's responsible for this? The absence of deterrence, which keeps on fueling impunity. Like I said, there are rules, there are regulations, there are laws that regulate all of these things we're talking about. Why are they not enforced? Who are the agencies charged with the enforcement? Look at what is happening in Isaleko in Lagos. Buildings collapsing here and there. People were asking questions. When these structures were being erected, who were those who were supposed to have supervised them to make sure that they met the approved requirements? Nobody. Only lately, but thank God the decision will be taken. The state government authorized that all such illegal structures should be demolished because we've lost too many innocent souls, But back to your question of the enforcement, I think the town planners, let us get one fact very right. The town planners are the town planners. They might not necessarily be the enforcement agencies, okay? And like we said, all hands must be on deck. The security agencies, for instance, all they need to do, even though they say that one of their duties is enforcement of law and order, that don't necessarily involve the laws that regulate the town planning that we're talking about. But if they are involved, why not? They work together. If, for instance, there's an illegal structure somewhere and they set out to go and demolish it, people are becoming unruly and all of that, the law enforcement agents can be brought in to ensure that that structure is brought down. And people that are trying to obstruct the officers' schedule to do such functions are not disturbed in any way. But back to the point I'm making, point I made before, we will have to address this problem of population explosion in Nigeria. That is our biggest problem for now, that has brought so much pressure on all our facilities, on all our infrastructures. Something that is meant for 10 people, you are finding 1,000 people using it. What do you expect?
But what can be done to population explosion? It's a natural phenomenon. People are growing. And, what we'll be thinking about is, what is the government doing to capture that aspect of development? Knowing that, population is growing, what do you do?
That's what I'm telling you now. You see, once you identify your problems, you must prefer solution. And you must be sincere in implementing those solutions. Like my friend said, Musa, how can you release their budget 2 months at the end of the year? Does that make sense? So from January, for instance, till up to October, no funds to do anything. I will just go around doing the blame, FCDA, the town, blah, blah, not doing enough.
How do we manage security in a situation like this?
The issue of the security situation like the insecurity, that lies squarely in the realm of the security agencies. And like I've always said, one of the challenges they face, security agencies faces, one, grossly inadequate manpower. Then the empowerment, empowering them to perform their duties. Only yesterday I was watching the television, and a military commander in Borno State, a Major General, who was in the same environment with soldiers from Czech Republic, was appealing to the federal government to make sure they provide the equipment they require to be able to confront and overcome Boko Haram. Openly saying that. So we cannot continue like this. The problem we have in this country is that we know all our problems, we know all the solutions, but the political will to do it is the problem. It's the problem. You don't watch of comparing Nigeria with America. No. Like I said, if you go to the US, go to the major cities there, you don't find things like this. But here you see it's almost happening, no precautions taken. No preemptive measures taken, nothing. We wait until it happens, then we'll start crying, shedding crocodile tears and all of that. So we must be up and doing. We must be up and doing. Infrastructure must be put in place. Then, of course, maintenance is key. You're not just making them available, they must be sustained, they must be maintained. And security is a collective responsibility of all of us, not just security agencies alone.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, actually, but not before we go to Kaduna, please. Let's hear again from Malam Idris Dauda. Now, Malam Dauda, town planning, or you call it a city management, is technical and political as well. And AIG retired Obaudu did mention that every other agency that is responsible for ensuring adherence to the master plan or whatever regulatory measure put in place to checkmate indiscriminate erection of structures should play its own role. And in your experience, over the years, and Kaduna being a case in point, do you foresee a situation where, in Kaduna, for instance, the urban slums can be taken care of in terms of management and provision of required social amenities needed by those dwelling in those areas? Because, of course, it has become inevitable that the population is growing, and, of course, urban slums have become a reality across the globe.
Thank you very much. To answer you directly, the truth of the matter is that even in Abuja, there are more slums than are planned areas. So also in Kaduna, so also in every other city. Like I was saying, you see, we had basic discipline, some commitment up to maybe early 70s. From there, the population rise became too high and we cannot control. Even planners failed to grasp the real issue, and therefore we allow them to go. We are now urging planners, both in academics, in practice, and the rest, to really come forward to see what we can do and make sure those places you call slums are really meet the minimal habitable environment. I think we tried in Kaduna, but a long time ago, maybe about 1986, to to demarcate where the slums are and then, plan ahead and come back and solve the solution. But I must admit we are not as fast as the growth was, and we could not be able to handle it. But somehow, somewhere, if we slightly tilt the approach of planning, make it more, participatory, more public involved, and if government comes to terms with reality, I think, the basic problem with Nigerian government until very recently is that they think they can do everything for everybody. Therefore, infrastructure in urban area is a very, very expensive venture. And we can now even you don't have to make the lanes like you have in New York or London or Tokyo, but let them have something that you can move on. And then over time, people can now begin to improve. At least it's much better than the slums you find in almost every section of Kaduna. And if you have not observed, please do observe. Whether by air or by road, go to any city that you call a city, you find that the periphery is all slum. No plan at all, no infrastructure, nothing. Everybody does what he wants to do. Simply because we are not able to cope with the growth of the population, with the large-scale immigration into towns. That you ask somebody whether a government can do anything to stop urban growth. The truth of the matter is that it cannot. Let's not deceive ourselves that it can. Because people come to cities for a purpose. And whatever you want to call it, the bottom line of that purpose is opportunity. People leave areas to come to cities because they perceive that they have opportunity. And you cannot stop people thinking that they have opportunity. Even if the opportunity doesn't exist, it's not what exists that bothers you. It's what they believe, that they will come to Kaduna or Abuja or Lagos or Port Harcourt or Kano because there exist bigger opportunities. Truly there are, but not as much as maybe they are thinking. I think the challenge for planners, for policymakers, for politicians, for everybody that has to do with the city, in which case all of us have to do with the city, because that's why we live, and that's why we earn our living, and that's why our children play, that's why our children go to school. We must come to terms. Beyond ordinary meeting, I want to develop something, come agree, call. We must have a commitment by each department. I said it, and I am happy the AIG, who also has been in it, said we do not have the minimal discipline in this country. Really, we need a lot more disciplined society. The Shoaibu in Abuja said, what sort of indiscipline do you have? People, budget is approved 2 months. With all these new regulations about you have to now call, you have to call tenders, you have to do this, it's just impossible to do. That is the level of discipline. It's not only the National Assembly that is in discipline. All of us in various ways were in discipline in our own different ways. So we must bring everybody to come to terms. Look, National Assembly, this is not doing the place, we have to do something. The military, we must be minimally disciplined to get it right. If we don't, unfortunately, I don't know, I guess it's as good as mine or even better. But the truth of the matter is that for a long time we have to learn to live with slums. Because we have not even addressed the current problems, not to talk of coming back to address. And that's what we are doing. We are even creating the planned areas to be slums. Come to Kaduna, go to Jos, go to Kano. Those days they have these large plots in the GRA. Now one plot can be divided into 5, 6, 7 times, confounding the pressure they are talking in Abuja. I have seen in Kaduna a GRA plot less than half the size of ordinary local government plot. Not half the size. But the guy insists he has to be in the GRA because things are better for him. And therefore, we must be able to discipline ourselves. We must be able to be more proactive. including our planners. Maybe our planners should be able to be more in the vanguard in really getting people to understand the problems. They must be able to tell the world that, look, this planning, I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing it for all of us. And all of us have stake in the city. Everybody has a stake. And I think I expect the younger ones like Mosi to create a more proactive environment to educate people. And then he knows, only 2 weeks ago, I made a plea to all the planning outfits in this country. Let's now have planning hospitals. And what do you call planning hospitals is to look at these ghetto areas and then see whether we can make some input and some semblance of planning. City development is not something you can do in a day. It's not something you can do in a year. It's not something you can do in 40 years. It's a lifetime issue. But the mistake, the issue of slums is that you do not give the minimum framework for it to be improved. And all we are saying is that we should try and give all settlements, parts of the city, minimal framework, planning framework, that maybe next 30 years, 50 years, I'm sure a lot of...
Thank you so much, Malam Idris Dauda, for your input. If you're just joining us, we have been having a conversation on managing Nigerian cities. We'll take a break right now. When we come back, the conversation continues.
Team huddle.
But we lost.
Don't be tired, guys. This isn't a loss. It's a practice for winning.
Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her child growing up. But I know as he learns to lead, he'll face even more dirt, germs, and risk of illness.
That's why in changing seasons, you need strong Dettol protection. Because Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
All right, before we continue, let's give you this bit of information. President Muhammadu Buhari is scheduled to depart for Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, for another official visit Thursday. He is expected to commission developmental projects, especially in the sectors of education, healthcare, and roads. A statement by the President's Special Advisor on Media, Femi Adesina, says that at the end of the visit, President Buhari will be proceeding to the United Kingdom on a private visit. He's expected to return to Nigeria on May 5, 2019. And we have been receiving messages from Nigerians who are watching this program and making their own comments via tweets. And we'll begin with Shoaibu Alkali. He says, cities can be managed in Nigeria. One focused on the following. 1, solution to security challenges. 2, health. 3, education. 4, employment. 5, bustling economic activities.
And Chris Simon tweets, through strategic planning, government should set up task force on environmental sanitation to manage Nigerian cities.
Now, from Dele Jack Solomon, unfortunately, urbanization in Nigeria is merely demographically driven without commensurate socio-economic dividends and benefits to the urban environment. There is a need for some of our laws to be amended to change the status of poor urban settlements to make our urban societies sustainable that promote a healthy living.
And Festus Akimboyewa tweets, the projects commissioned by PMB in Lagos yesterday, especially the Oshodi Transport Interchange that was designed and built by Nigerians, shows that Nigeria has many experts in engineering, design, architecture, and finance. They must be engaged in helping to manage our cities.
And from Law Alpha C, embarking on housing development initiatives to cater for the influx of people trooping to the cities for proper ventilation and ensure that a functional drainage system is put in place. Adequate sanitation and provision of viable access roads within the city in question have to be encouraged in view of rural-urban migration, which is on the rise.
Law Alpha C tweets, embarking on housing development.
I've just taken that. You should be taking Alhaji Musa Mohammed Hedejia.
Okay. Yeah. By managing the Nigerian cities, there is need for the state government to design and decorate the old municipality in the city. As you can see, they are dirty, overcrowded, and lacking social amenities. That's from Alhaji Musa Mohammed Hadija.
Yeah, Omobola Hon. Government across board should ensure master plans for every city that are implemented then regardless of who will be affected. That's what the Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna State did in the FCT under OBJ that gave Abuja that befitting look today. Abuja was almost becoming like Lagos.
And Cecilia Okoroma tweets, city management is not about shops, markets, construction. Key is about maintenance and checkmating excesses of residents.
Now, before Cecilia, we had Akeju Olabaju. It is simply the job of town planners, urban planners, and the political will of our leaders to implement the input of these professionals. It is also the responsibility of the citizens to abide by the environmental code to make city a happier place to live. And
we're still talking about environment. I'll be going to Lagos now, where Mr. Moses is standing by. Current patterns of urban development and human activities has led to environmental degradation and created a sort of threat to continuous human existence and sustainability. I still believe, anyway, that it's possible to make cities more livable through effective planning, monitoring of implementation and planning of projects and policies. Don't you think so? Briefly.
Well, thank you very much. I agree with you. I remember, I think Mr. Ogbandu and Malam Suleiman raised that we need the political will. We shouldn't continue to have what we call policy somersault. If a government has started an initiative as recommended by a plan, the new government should not, leave it out and say, no, I have my own plan. What the new government could probably do is to enhance what has been done before. I think we still have that challenge in Lagos. We were delighted in 2012 when the former governor, Raji Fashola, embarked on a massive beautification. And we were happy. I mean, it gave the city a good outlook, and we know what we see in other parts of the world. So, for city management, apart from the problem of lack of finance, and then what I also refer to as plan implementation and discipline, there shouldn't be that what we call discontinuity syndrome. I'm here now as governor. I want to jettison all that has happened before. It's very key if you really want to enjoy our cities and make them become a place of pride. I think we should also let local government play their roles. If they have played their roles, maybe the level of deficiency that we have will not be there. I mentioned earlier, I remember when I was in school, I studied in Ibadan. One assignment says Ibadan City has 11 government discussed. What does that mean? The governor, and I mentioned again, 10 local government. So today, our local governments are virtually doing nothing. And I mentioned earlier, in the Lagos metropolitan area, we used to say, but I think we are changing it.
All right, Moses, we are pressed for time, please, and we'll have to stop you there for now and return to Abuja. Umar Shaibu, there is a current demolition exercise taking place in Abuja at the moment. Why so?
You see, we have been demolishing places in Abuja, those that do not comply with our regulations. We must make enforcement and make sure that no matter how high somebody is, if he's violating our regulations, we first stop him. If he does not stop, we go ahead and serve him demolition notice and make sure that we make people comply with Abuja.
So there have been adequate notice before the demolition.
There are adequate notice.
Fine, that's what we would like to hear. That's what we would like to hear. And
by law, by the URP law, we are supposed to give somebody maximum 21 days. So whenever we give you notice, by the regulation, by the law, even if it is 24 hours, we are covered by the law.
All right, thank you indeed. Gentlemen, it's been a healthy conversation on the issue of city planning and management in Nigeria. And from all your submissions, we need to do a lot more to see how we can make our cities livable, and of course ensure that those who are living in slums today are giving some sense of belonging by way of provision of amenities, because it's obvious now that across the globe, Slums are inevitable anywhere under the earth. All right, now I would like to appreciate our guests for contributing positively to this conversation. First, I would like to thank Omar Shoaibu, Coordinator of Abuja Metropolitan Management Council. Thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Felix Obaudu, the retired Assistant Inspector General of Police. Thanks for sharing your experience with us this morning.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Malam Idris Dauda Suleiman, former head of Department Urban and Regional Planning Department, the ABU, and former General Manager Kasuda. We appreciate your wealth of experience in this conversation because, of course, you took us right back to the very beginning. Thank you so much for coming this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Now, sports update is next.